38, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we are covering episode 38, Conflict at Baschool, or however you pronounce that. We were having a discussion about that.
Yes,
you say Baschool?
I think it's Baschool, but...
This is a Megamind complex.
Yeah.
Old Shul house.
Baschool, I don't know.
I don't know, it's like Rizimbool.
Wait, how was it spelled in the manga? Because they didn't spell it the same.
Go to the source, the poorly translated source.
Yes. Well, they spelled it differently, so maybe they spelled it like how you should say it. If I can find it. Yeah.
I don't put much stock in the pronunciation there though, because Ling is Lin and Lior is Riol.
That's very, very true. Okay, let's see. Literally just read this. How can I? Okay, what? Okay, this is how they spelled it. Buzcoul. Baschool.
Baschool. You know what? Let's go with that. Baschool. That sounds fine to me.
All right.
Buzzkill. That's cool.
That also is more how you said it, so I see how it is.
Well.
Anyway, in this the summary for this episode, when Scar is cornered by a pair of gruesome chimeras, the Elrics enter the fray as his unlikely allies. Later, Winter's attempt to confront Scar over his role in her parents' death ends in disaster.
Yes. And this covers manga chapter 71, In the Grip of the Red Lotus, 72, A Chain of Negativity, A Pebble of Goodness, and just a little bit of 73, A Daydream.
I like the chapter 72. It's an interesting name. Let's jump right into this episode. We see Riza arriving home. She's pretty shaken after her encounter with Pride, and she sees like a pair of eyes staring out at her, and she at first is scared, but then she sees it's just Black Hayate, her cute little doggy. After that scare, the phone rings and it's the Colonel, and the whole conversation is amazing. He's like, "Hello there, madam," and he's like, "I'm drunk and I have a cart full of flowers, and do you want any?" Which is very sweet. But he also she responds to him and he senses something in her voice right away, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "No, it's fine," because she can't tell him because Pride told her not to. And she hangs up and she's like, he always comes in at the right time, calls at the right time.
Yeah.
It's just a sweet scene. Ed and Al and Kimblee and the northern soldiers are searching for Scar at the abandoned mining town, and it's I wish they would have put this in, but they skipped this part when they're driving to the mining town. There's a funny scene in the car with first Winry. The soldiers yelling at her you shouldn't come with, and she's crying, and then everybody's freaking out, and then we see her with the little evil face ha ha.
Yes, so she's trying to get pity from them.
Yeah.
Through fake tears and fake emotion. So I think she's making her shoulders shake, but she's probably holding back laughter or something.
Yeah. And then we see all the soldiers at Briggs. They're all super sad to see her go, and they're like our female our pretty female resource and her charm. We're gonna miss her. And one of the soldiers well, we have Armstrong, and they're like, she's too scary to be a woman.
You know what? But to be fair, they have other women there. There's that doctor we met, and there's got to be other female soldiers too.
Yeah.
They're probably all hardened Briggs soldiers. She's a breath of fresh air for them.
They said Olivier's too scared to be a woman, which is rude because women come in all
shapes, sizes, and temperaments.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I think her fierce protectiveness proves that she's a woman, actually, because I find that to be a very effeminate trait.
I agree. Anyway, So they're at the mining town, and the Kimblee's men are watching over the Elrics, and of course, Elrics want to lose them so they can go off and do their own thing. And so they spot someone and like go running super fast into a building, and the soldiers are like, wait, wait for us. And they like go around a corner and make a wall and lose them.
Yes, I love 2 manga notes here. The first is, are we sure the Elric brothers don't have telepathy? They were totally in sync. Like, they just looked at each other and both at the same time went, oh, look over there! They were in it. And the second one is, there's this really funny manga panel, which I'm sure has been used for memes, but after Ed and Al make the wall, they like sneak away, and the sound effect says sneak, and they're like in these like little rat poses.
I love them. And so then they go off searching for May, which is their real objective. And of course, the mining town is huge, which I was saying to Megan, like, it's a huge town to just abandon. Like, normally when you think of like abandoned towns, they're like, one road with like a couple of buildings, but no,
and a tumbleweed.
Is like, this is like a full-on city.
Yeah.
So is kind of interesting. And so it's really big, and they're having a hard time finding May, but then May finds them. We hear her like yelling for Alphonse. And she like runs up to him and like tackles him, and it's so cute because like she and Al and Chow Mei are all like blushing, so happy to see them.
Ed breaks up their cute moments.
Yes, Ed reminds them that he's there too, and May is not excited to see him, but she's also like, both brothers are like desperately in love with me, and she's just classic 11-year-old girl, I guess, caught up in fantasies.
Aww.
And then Winry was inside Al's armor, and May's like, who's this woman? And she's very upset. And Al's like, no, we're just friends. And then he's like super confused, like, why am I defending myself like I'm cheating?
That's the moment I knew when a ship was starting. Like when he started like acknowledging that there was romantic tension there was when I was like, oh, there could be something to this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then May calls Winry a hussy. like, girl.
It's all your role, child.
Yeah. You're 11.
Yeah.
But close behind May is Marco and Yoki, and the Elrics don't recognize either of them. Marco because of his face, and then Yoki, I guess he is just an unremarkable man. So, and so then Yoki like tells his backstory. So he was the one that we talked about. I don't know, like episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, one of our first episodes, because it was a full manga chapter, which was a very entertaining read and very important for like getting the personalities of the Elric brothers. They just didn't animate it in this series. So this is kind of like a brief little recap of, if you've read it, you already know it. But they kind of do it in this cute black and white style. I'm just reading Meg's notes, but Ed looks evil. So this is Yoki's side of the story. Basically, the Elrics exposed Yoki's deception at the town he was stationed at, and they freed the townspeople. In Yoki's version, they swindled him, which totally is not true. But they tricked him, but in order to free the people he was oppressing. Yes. I say it's justified. Justified deception. But yeah, anyway, this is like what happened to Yoki afterwards. Not that we really care all that much, but there are flashes of him working as a clown, a samurai. He gambled. He tried to rob the Armstrong estate. And he runs into the wrong people, 2 of Armstrong's sisters who look exactly like him, just with longer hair. And then the youngest sister, who is very pretty, but heps a piano over her head and slams Yoki with it. And Yoki decided to align with Scar and the others because he thinks he'll get the opportunity to take revenge on the Elric brothers.
Yes.
And
good recap based on
thank
my
you.
notes.
Yes, based on your. Sorry, I kind of took the wheel there.
No, you're. I'm impressed that you're able to.
I've read that. I've read that manga chapter multiple times, so I figured I could just rattle it off super quick. I also once we've caught up, in the manga, obviously they don't have these flashbacks. It's just Yoki saying, "Don't you remember me?" And Al's response to him in the manga is, "Did we meet any dirty beggars in Usewell, big bro?"
And so the Elrics have found who they have wanted to find, but Kimblee. Oh my gosh, that's a new one. But Kimblee can't find Scar, and it's really funny. You can tell that the northern soldiers do not like him. One sticks out his tongue.
That's also in the manga. I'm glad they animated that.
But Kimblee's men do find Scar, and of course Scar fights back. But we learn something interesting about Kimblee's men. Sorry, I cannot talk.
That's right.
They transform into looks like a warthog and a frog kind of thing. They're chimeras.
Yeah.
And as this fight with Scar begins, we see Marco showing the Elrics his book of notes from Scar's brother. But they need Scar to help translate it, and the Elrics are not happy about that. Mm-hmm. They just want to be rid of him. And we go back to the fight, and the chimeras, one is shooting spikes from his back, and the other one is spitting at Scar, which is, I don't know, it's okay, it's gross, but also I thought the spit might have been poisonous, but obviously it's not.
I think it's just sticky.
Yeah. It's just sticky. Which I guess we can talk about this now. The chimera. So the one is man / warthog / I also think porcupine.
I think so.
And then the other one, they called him a toad in the manga.
Yeah, so toad / man /
I was trying to think of something that maybe is really slimy and spits, but
I'm just coming up with toad. He doesn't really look like
I don't know
too
if he's
much else to me.
Anything else really.
No. They've just got interesting character designs, so I guess that's all we need to think about.
Yes. But they managed to trap one of Scar's arms with one of the Chimera's spit, and this is when Ed and Al arrive. They heard an explosion, so they went to check it out, and the Chimeras were like, "Oh, good, we've got backup," or whatever. And Ed and Al quickly realize oh, these are Kimblee's men. But then they pretend they don't recognize them, and they're start punching them and screaming for her help us, and the chubby one looks like he wants to eat us.
They're monsters.
And Ed starts fighting the chimeras, and he's very excited about his new automail. It's pretty awesome. He has the goofiest face, and he's doing his evil laugh, and
I love it. It's great because he doesn't realize how light it is until after he starts fighting, and then he's like, "I can move so much faster now." And even the chimeras say he's faster than Scar is. And in the manga, after he fights, though, he topples over because he's not used to balancing with lighter automail. And also we'll see that his automail's lighter and he can move faster, but it also means he doesn't hit as hard.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's super funny. In the manga, when he does fall, Al's like, "You moron." Just a brother thing.
I love it.
Once Ed realizes that the frog's spit or the toad's spit is water, or is basically water, he turns it into water and freezes it onto the back of the toad, and then he pushes Al into him, so then Al's metal armor, and then the chimera gets stuck to it with his icy back.
I call this the tongue on a flagpole in winter move, or whatever he said.
Yeah. And then he defeats the other Chimera by convincing him to transform back to, like, prove who he is. And then, like, while he's transforming, he, like, knocks him out.
Yes. And in the manga, Ed says, "Ha! Only a fool sheathes his weapon in the presence of an enemy." And at first I didn't, like, take that to mean too much. I thought he was just gloating. But then I realized he might be thinking of, it might be a callback to his battle in the 5th lab when he was fighting the Slicer brothers. He sheathed his arm blade too soon when he thought he had defeated them before he realized it was 2 brothers in the armor. So this might be like a lesson he's carried with him ever since.
It's a good thought. His little, in the manga, his little, like, quote reminded me of, you know, that one guy from The Princess Bride, the one who says inconceivable. There's, like, one line specifically that I'm, like, thinking of. When he's poisoned with the poison, and, like, after they drink, and he's like,
ha 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 ha! You shouldn't have, or what was it? Never make a bet with a something. Yeah.
Yeah, that line. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, I just imagine Ed saying that in, like, that tone.
Then laughing and keeling over.
Okay, not that part, but in this oh my gosh, Ed was doing the right thing in this context.
Yeah.
And then Al, he, like, knocks out the other Chimera, and he's like, time to take a little nap. But, like, the way he does it, he
chokes him.
Yeah. And, like, you hear, like, his neck, like, crack. I was like, oh my gosh, did he just kill him? But no, he did not.
Al would never.
No. And then the Elrics turn their attention to Scar, and they attack him. And they're able to capture him. But then Winry finds them, and she's like, don't fight or whatever. And
yeah, I think Scar like destroys the ground, and he's coming after the Elrics, and they might have gotten hurt if Winry hadn't shown up and distracted Scar.
Yeah, I think you were right. And then we see that she's with Miles and his men, and they're all ready to, like, capture Scar, and Miles is gonna actually, I think he's gonna kill him. Like, he's I don't know. Like,
well, how the scene went down, how I saw it anyway, was after when we showed up and distracted Scar, Ed and Al were able to get the upper hand, and I think they had a surge of protectiveness too, and they pinned Scar down in, like, transmuted metal and like concrete around his other arm to stop him from moving. And so then Miles is, like, kind of interrogating him, but with the intent, like, we can't take him with us, and maybe he was thinking we can't let Kimblee get him either. So he's ready to shoot. I'm not sure if he would have, but he's definitely prepared to if needed. But then Winry's like, hold everything, I just want to talk to him.
Yep. And she asks why he killed her parents, and Scar doesn't give a very satisfying answer. He's like,
well, anything I say will sound like an excuse or whatever.
Yep. And then there is a huge explosion that Kimblee sees from the outside. And he's like, that's where Miles went. And then we go back to Briggs, and the men that went into the tunnel are back from the rescue mission. But it's been more than 24 hours, so they're like, oh, the opening must be closed. But it was not closed. And we see that, and they're like, it's been more than 24 hours. Why hasn't it been closed? And we see that Olivier gave the soldier in charge a watch that was broken, so it was never going to reach the 24 hours. So she does have a heart.
Of course she does.
And then Armstrong is outside waiting, and Buccaneer tells her that there were 2 survivors, and they have just, like, a really sweet, like, heart-to-heart. I like that moment. But then cars arrive, and there are men from Central that have come with questions.
Bum, bum, bum.
And they go back to the mining town, and there's that big explosion, And Ed rushes out and he yells at Kimblee for like, why weren't you watching Winry? And then we see that Scar has taken Winry and the episode ends.
Yes. There's, we gotta find it, but there's this spoof that the author did where, Ed rushes in and says, why weren't you watching Winry? Instead of Scar looking intimidating and holding her under his arm, it's Winry with a bloody wrench holding Scar.
Both scenarios are possible.
Yes. Anyway, so animation expertise. There was a lot of things I really liked about this episode. I really liked how, well, I always love the fight scenes, but Ed was really drawn in a dynamic way, especially with the new automail he was using, and, drawn faster. And I think they might have changed from 12 frames per second to 24 frames per second a couple times to make the animation a little bit smoother. And it also was kind of cute to see Yoki's story animated in the old black and white film kind of style. Mm-hmm. But they didn't translate the Japanese, so we couldn't see what they were saying.
That is one, at least for Crunchyroll, that is one downside of dub, is that they don't translate when there's text on the screen, but with the sub, they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
At least from what I've seen.
From what I've seen as well, with Crunchyroll, not the others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. One thing that we wanted to discuss was Olivier's her discussion with Buccaneer. She says, I like the winters up here. Everything's black and white. I appreciate the pure simplicity of it. And Buccaneer says, that's not true, sir. You can see blue if you look up. And basically they're saying that things are not just black and white. And in the manga, they say that, and then they say, like, even the hearts of men are not just black and white. Yeah. So it was interesting. I don't know. I liked this observation about life because, like Olivier, we might wish that things are black and white because that would make life a whole lot easier. But I think that just takes away part of what makes life interesting and what makes humans human. Yeah. Like it's kind of like this concept of like just things are only black and white when that's not true. That just, you think about like stealing food to feed your family. Like stealing is wrong, but is letting your family starve, is that, also not right as well.
Right.
Or like, it also reminds me of, like Rahab in the Bible when she lied to protect the soldiers, or lied to protect the spies.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I would say she did the right thing, especially since she was rewarded for it and kept alive because of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like, but at the same time, I have been watching Vinland Saga, and I don't want to like give anything away, but the main character, he like stands up for, like, he refuses to commit an act of violence, even though it seems like it would be the right decision, but he refuses to do that. And actually, because of that, he ends up like making everything way better. Like his courage to do the right thing was actually the right thing to do, I guess.
It's hard in the moment, and you just have to...
and it just...
Yeah, and I would compare that also to Levi's philosophy in Attack on Titan, because...
Yes.
And I can see that's where you're going with that.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like, I was going to say, like, it's good to think about this concept, and, like, it can help you when you have hard decisions to make, and it's comforting to know that sometimes there is no, like, right answer, and you have to make a choice and, like, live with the consequences, which is exactly what you were saying, and that's what I was going to say, is that, like, in Attack on Titan, that's something that
gotta just move forward.
Yeah.
And I also like a line that Levi says to Armin, but it's like, don't let anyone regret this decision. Not them, not me, especially not yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's a lot of pressure to put on yourself, but at the same time, it kind of eases it up because, like, no matter what happens, I just have to keep going. And who knows what the right decision is in the moment. Or like he said to Aaron time and time again, you could choose to trust me or you could choose to trust yourself. I won't judge you either way, but just know that we've got your back, kind of like that sentiment.
Yeah. Great minds.
Yes. All right. Moving on from that tangent. So story elements analysis, we've mentioned this before with other characters, but the character bonds. So we've seen a lot between Winry, Ed, and Al, and we've already covered that pretty in depth. But in this one, it was more with Riza and Roy. They know each other so well that even like a sigh from Riza tips Roy off that she's feeling like she's feeling sad or scared or mad or anything. And just start dating already, you two.
Oh, but they can't.
I know. I'm not really like a hardcore aggressive shipper, but when it comes to those two, because I know that they want to be together, it makes me just like want them to be together so much.
Yeah. And also I think part of it too is that they're like actually adults. Like,
yes. It's really hard to ship the teenagers together sometimes because like you're so young, you haven't really lived yet, you can take your time, it's okay.
Yep.
And also, I'm just, like, really a big fan of platonic relationships, too. So, yeah.
All right. That was all we have for this episode. Megan, what was your favorite line?
Mine came from Ed, quite sarcastically responding to Yoki. Yeah, how sad. Life is hard. Trust me, I know just how you feel. And what was your favorite line?
I was going to say that line is an anime original because that whole scene wasn't in the manga at all.
Yeah.
So there's not even like a, paraphrase of it.
Nice.
Yes, my favorite line came from Scar when he was, after Winry confronted him about killing her parents. When he said, there's nothing I can say that won't sound like an excuse, and nothing can change the fact that I am responsible for their deaths. I like that he just
owned up to it.
Yeah, owned up to it. I really don't like when people like try to blame others and make excuses, and I like when they're just own up to what you've done.
Yeah.
All right, what did we learn in this episode?
Look for trouble and it'll find you.
Yes, very true. All right, and then who pushed the story forward?
I don't know, because they're continuing the search for May and Scar, and they were, I don't know, a lot of the action came from them in this episode.
We're kind of moving on to the next part of the story, and I am very excited.
Yes, it's going to be a roller coaster.
Yes. All right. That's all, folks.
That's copyrighted. We can't say that.
Well, it's been said.
Okay.
What is it? Is that Looney Tunes? Yeah, they're gonna track our podcast down and copyright claim us.
Yeah, right.
All right. We will be back next week with another episode.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.